everybody, it's Dana. It is Thursday morning, April the 12th, and I am finally getting around to starting a little more of the testing. I told you a couple weeks ago, I guess it's been a while, that I had put them all in the freezer, and we did have a couple freeze. The Now Peppermint froze, the Better Homes and Garden Peppermint froze. It seems to me there was one more, and I'm going to put all this together in notes so we have a full summary, but freezing is not a good thing, right? Freezing, a pure essential oil should not freeze. So that tells me straight out of the gate there's a problem with the peppermint from those brands. So it would not then be one, ideally, you would even want to continue any further testing because it's kind of already failed. For those that didn't freeze, it's possible that there's something been added to the oil, like an alcohol or some other filler of sorts or some synthetic that would not freeze. So just because it didn't freeze let me rephrase that. Just because, I'm still trying to rephrase that. The fact that it didn't freeze just means we need to do some more tests for verification. But in my mind, Now and Better Homes and Gardens are really off the table, right? So I'm still going to use them and show you kind of this whole process. This is the first time I've ever done this with a comparative study along these lines. I have, in all transparency, years ago when I first started, I was of the belief it couldn't possibly be that different. And I did have at that time some of the larger bottles of Majestic Pure. And seems to me there was one called Sun Essential Oils, and you could buy the big bottle. I mean, you could buy like a big 4-ounce bottle for less than the price of some of these bigger name brands. And so I thought, surely they can't be that different, but they really are. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to pull out the lavender, right? So peppermint already failed for 2 of them. And I'm going to come back and do this for all of them. But we're going to pull out the lavender and we're going to put that on our rag paper. So it's cotton rag paper. And we're going to watch it for the next 30 minutes to 24 hours and see what happens to the paper. If it is dry within 30 minutes or so, it shouldn't be. And so that would say there's probably some alcohol in there or something synthetic that's drying it out. It also shouldn't leave rings, right? It shouldn't leave rings around the papers either. The other thing that I'm going to do is create the little synergy of lemon, lavender, and peppermint. So these are empty bottles. There's nothing in them. I'm going to create the synergy of lemon, lavender, and peppermint from all of these brands to see what that smells like once it has set up for 24 hours. These are 3 very well-known oils that go together. And you may have heard many people talking about using lemon, lavender, and peppermint as a way to help with seasonal support. And so I've been doing that for days. And you'll hear us talk about the action of an essential oil. Does it give you an effect? So peppermint, we know, should be cooling when you touch it. It should open up sort of those passageways, and you actually feel it starting to help you release some of the seasonal congestion that's going on. So the fact that you put these together, you shouldn't be able to distinguish 3 different scents anymore, it should create a new one, and that new one should smell good. It shouldn't go, oh my God, what is that? So I'm going to go ahead and start building my little concoctions. So I'm sharing this with you guys. You may be bored watching me do this, but I wanted everybody to know that I was doing the exact same thing for all of them. So I'm trying to put about 5 drops of each into each little bottle. Some people will do 10 drops. As long as they're the same number of drops, it should be okay. Try not to mix up your caps. So that's lemon, lavender, and peppermint. From Young Living. And then you put the cap on this. I could put one of those little stoppers in there, but for the purposes of what I'm doing, it's not necessary right now. So this is doTERRA. doTERRA's lemon. I'm going to come back and smell them all later. Ooh, so that drips out significantly faster. And if you look, let me see the lemon. I don't know if you can tell. The orifice little is the thing that makes it drop out versus pour out. They look to be about the same size. If anything, I would say Young Living's orifice is a little bit bigger. But that's from doTERRA, that dripped out pretty quick. Which just means there's different textures to these oils, right? So all of this is interesting stuff to start paying attention to. That's the lavender. I'm sorry, that's the peppermint. Now, one of the things that I have heard is that this is their peppermint. This is their lavender. Is that their formulation? Sorry, I'm counting. And so that poured out a little quickly too. But the formulation for for doTERRA and some of these others is that they are designed to smell better. Meaning, some of the constituents, some of the original constituents of what was in the original plant have been removed. That earthy smell, that dirt smell, that it smells like a plant smell. And they start to become sweeter. And they do that because the human population is gullible in this marketing thing, and we think that things that smell better, right? So think about all the fabric sprays and candles and things that we have used over the years. We've gotten accustomed to things smelling big and bold and fresh and pretty, right? We've gotten used to those floral sprays. And so sometimes when you smell a Young Living oil, you're like, that smells like dirt. Or that smells like a plant. It doesn't smell sweet. It smells like the earth. And that's really what they're supposed to smell like. So the fact that they have distilled out some of those additional constituents may have an effect on the action, the therapeutic effect of the essential oil and what it is capable of doing. So this is, so that's a strong, so some of them I've been smelling, actually I take that back. I don't have lavender from Better Homes and Gardens. I have lemon, peppermint, and frankincense. So I'm not going to mix those three. So that's just peppermint and lemon. All right, so this is Majestic Pure. So that drips out pretty quick too. That's their lavender. Anyway, back to the smell. Some of them are going to smell very different. Some of them will smell very sweet, and that's not necessarily its natural form. So just be aware of that. Oh, so that dripped out super fast too. That's Majestic Pure. Let me make sure I've swirled all these around. Okay. Moving into now. So remember, this one for me in my head already failed because the peppermint froze. But we're going to see. So most of these, all these bottles are the first time they've been open. Woo. So if you're getting bored watching me, I get it. But I wanted everybody to see what I was doing for the whole experiments. That's lavender, and that dripped out really fast too. When you open a bottle of essential oil, just having it open in the room, right? What they'll call the top notes will start to come out of the bottle. So even if you're holding, that's like, sorry, my head's going faster than my mouth. So that's like when you open a bottle of essential oil, you don't want to shove it under your dog's nose because he can smell it from across the room. And when you get better at all of this, when you start really paying attention, you can start to pick up on those notes that are in the room. I was at my aunt's house last fall when Huey was at the vet in Raleigh. And she just had an unopened bottle. I mean, it had been used, but the lid was on it. Sitting on her, let's see, that dripped down a little bit. This is the Eden's Garden. She had a bottle just sitting on her coffee table, and it gave me the worst headache because stuff was sort of leaching out the bottle, the cap. And so anyway, as they're open, you can start picking up on those top notes and the scent of them. You might be interested to know that the buyer, Robert Pappas, the buyer for doTERRA, where they source their oils, is the same buyer for Eden's Garden. And so in many cases, it's the same source, the same fields and plants and process. It's just bottled differently. So think about products that you know that are just remarketed, rebranded. It's a similar situation for some of their oils as well. This is Plant Therapy. Now I can look at this and tell that it is already really bright yellow. Oils do have a color. Some of them are naturally clear, brown, orange, yellow, blue even. So we're going to compare all of that when we start this too. may have a raging headache by the time the day is over. There we go. So 5 drops of each in new clean little bottles. And we're gonna let these sit around for the next 24 hours. And tomorrow, I'm gonna come back and smell them all and try them all, meaning put it on my skin if it's appropriate for that, and so on. So I have a little grid here on what's called cotton rag paper. So typical copier paper, printer paper would not be sufficient for this because they often have some synthetic things in them as well. So I've labeled Young Living, doTERRA, Better Homes, Majestic, Now, Eden's Garden, and Plant Therapy. And these two, the first ones are peppermint. So we're going to pour a drop of peppermint. That got 2 drops. We're going to pour a drop of peppermint in each of the little blocks. It is, by the way, 10:44, so at 11:15, I'm going to double check. Are you going to come out of there? There we go. I don't know if you can see this, or I'm not going to pick them up because I don't want to stir them around or anybody to say, oh, well, it's spread thinner or any of that kind of stuff. It is what it is. But these, so the Better Homes and Garden and the Majestic Pure they look much wetter, and they spread from the drop. What I see in the Young Living is it made 2 distinct drops. The doTERRA, 2 drops fell out of that, but it was a bigger drop, but it didn't like disperse. These 2 dropped and then sort of spread a little bit further. Let's see what the Now does. Woo. So that's a tiny little drop that's growing. Green should be the peppermint. This is Eden's Garden. That's 2 drops that popped out of there. Woo, I don't think I could use that one. That hurts my head. And then Plant Therapy. And so my goal here, y'all, is not to say that the oils are bad. Maybe just that they're different. If we do find something with a synthetic in it, then obviously that one would be 100% off the table. The others, for me, it's really going to boil down to the action. Does it work? Right? Meaning, does it get me a therapeutic benefit? So I'm just putting these in the same order. I have 7 different types. So now we'll do lavender. Remember, I don't have lavender from Better Homes and Garden. they were sold out, which is scary. Worries me. So I'll just tell you, a lot of people love lavender. I do not love lavender. I use it because of what it does, and I'll put it in, you know, blends and synergies and things of that nature when I need to. So I'm skipping lavender for better homes. But it smells like dirt. The Young Living one is an earthy smell, right? It's kind of got, to me, it's sort of a thick, earthy smell, and not a lot of people like that. They want it to smell floral and fragrant, and some of these do, and those are usually the ones that give me the worst headache. Make sure I'm picking up the right bottles. All right, so we started these at 10:44. We started this, it's 10:48 now, so we'll say 10:47. We'll just keep an eye on it. And then I need to do I'm gonna switch around here. I brought in a little coffee thing. I don't have coffee beans, but I need to get some of this out of my nostrils. Okay, so we're on to the lemon. A little grid here. And we've got YA, doTERRA, Better Homes, You Stay Where You Were, Majestic, Now, Eden's Garden, and Plant Therapy. This would be lemon. Alright, so I'm going to set this right here. We'll start with the lemon. So you should see a little bit of yellow, but it shouldn't be neon. Remember that lemon is not a distilled product. It's cold pressed from the rind, meaning they take the outer rind, the lemon, and they press it. They put this big heavy duty press on it. Other oils are steam distilled. The citrus oils are typically pressed. And citrus oils can cause photosensitivity, meaning if you put lemon on your skin, right, and you went outside, it could actually give you something like a sunburn. So be careful with those. All right, and last but not least, plant therapy. Okay. So now, we're going to let these sit. They're going to actually sit for 24 hours, but we're going to come back in 30 minutes and do a little comparison of what it looks like. Is there a ring? And I can tell you, a couple of them I see what I believe is a ring already, meaning the constituents break apart, right? So the product in the bottle spread differently, if that makes sense. So I'm not going to share with you what they are yet. We'll hold them up and we'll look later. But so for right now, I'm going to just do a little sniff test on the lavender for all of them. Remember, I don't have lavender for the Better Homes, which is not a product that I would ever want to use. Just personal opinion, Dana's opinion. So lavender, this bottle of lavender from Young Living is labeled for topical and aromatic use. Remember, if we're using an ingestible, a consumable, they need to be labeled appropriately. And Young Living has a separate line labeled as Vitality, as safe to consume. But know that what's in the two bottles is exactly the same. It's a labeling thing for FDA requirements. So I mentioned that I don't love the smell of lavender. So when you're smelling an essential oil, open it and don't make it whiff straight to your nose, right? Open it, start to see if you can pick up on any of the, what they call the notes, just by sort of having it down around your belly button, swirl it around, get some motion to it, and see what's coming to release out of that bottle. And then sort of bring it up. Let me take my glasses off. Bring it up. So I can pick up on this already. The peppermint's probably going to clear me out, which would be a good thing. And then you want to breathe in from each side of your nose, because remember, right side of the brain, left side of the brain, they both function differently. They do different things. So think about what you pick up, what you sense, what it makes you feel, where you feel it in your body, right? That might be, you might get something where you feel like, oh, it's in my head, or it's in my eyes, it's the back of my throat, and I taste that. Or you might feel sensations or even emotions elsewhere in your body. So, and then change sides. To me, like I said, lavender, it's not an unpleasant smell, but it's not terribly floral. Okay? And so again, what I know about Young Living is, you'll hear people talk about the first distillation, right? There's only one distillation with the way Young Living distills their products. Some of the other companies that I mentioned will distill a second time, and it doesn't mean they're distilling the plant the second time. It means they're distilling the oil. So you distill the plant, you get an oil, then you distill the oil again to take out some of that earthy undertone and make it smell more floral, more flowery, sweeter. So this is doTERRA's. So I'm not picking it up in the same way that I picked it up from my Young Living one. So that's a difference of top notes, right? That early coming out of the bottle, and sort of where do you pick up on it? Yeah, these two smell nothing alike. In fact, I'm having a hard time smelling this one. It's very faint, very light, which may or may not mean it gives the same breadth of action in the essential oil. I'm going to go, actually I have some stuff right here. I can wash my hands. So I don't have lavender from the Better Homes. Get rid of the other smells. This is Majestic Pure. I guess I didn't do that one the same way, did I? Sorry, breaking my own rules. I don't pick up on very much here. So that one starts to make the back of my throat sort of scratchy, right? You feel it and it makes you want to go and sort of purge that back out. Not my fave. This is the Now brand. Remember, I've pretty much dismissed this one in my own head already, but we're gonna give it a shot. So I feel this one coming around. I feel it again in the back of my throat, even on my tongue, just by smelling it, which isn't terribly pleasant. That sensation gets a little worse. It's not as strong as the Young Living, and it's not as faint as the doTERRA. It's more in that Majestic Pure with that back of the throat feeling. Interesting. So now, knowing that Eden's Garden and doTERRA are often sourced from the same places, I'm curious to see how they pan out. So I feel this one rising up out of the bottle and hitting my nose sooner than the Now and the Majestic Pure did. I need to invite somebody over and do a blind test. That would be fun. So this seems pretty mild as well. And again, I'm not getting that earthy lavender scent that I get out of the Young Living. So if you had 2 of these and you're used to one, like let's say you're used to your doTERRA product and you pick up the Young Living, you may go, that smells like dirt. And it kind of does in some cases. It's not bad. It's just not like a flower. It's like you've pulled the plant, right? Like you've pulled the roots or the stems of the plant and you're smelling that. And then this is plant therapy. Let's see what time it is. I've got a couple minutes. Yeah, I feel this one coming out of the bottle as well. Whew, sorry. That one definitely hits the back of the throat. Yeah, that's a much stronger smell. So again, I'm not telling you one is bad or wrong or problematic. We're just doing some comparisons here. And I don't like, personal opinion, I don't like these 2 at all. The Majestic Pure and the Now. They don't sit right with me. This one, these 2 hit the back of the throat a lot. And to me, the doTERRA is pretty mild, and the Young Living is more earthy. So we'll see where I'm not going to smell the lemon and the peppermint now because I think my nose would be overloaded. And so I'm going to do that tomorrow. And I'm going to let these ride. I'm going to let the synergies set up overnight, and then we'll sniff those as we progress through these tests as well. As I'm looking at my cards, these are those are the lemons. So I've got peppermint here, lavender here. So far, nothing has gone completely dry. Everything is still a little damp. And we've got about 10 more minutes before we take the 30-minute view. So I'll come back in 10 minutes and tell you what I'm thinking. And then over the course of the next few days, we'll finish up the tests. So see you guys later.